All right. What up, what up, what up? Thank you so much for joining. My name's Travis, aka Machinedrum. And this is the first episode of 3482 for you. It's a new series taking a deep dive into the creation process behind my new album, 3482, which is dropping on May 24th. Today, we're going to be talking about the first single from this album, and it's called Zoom, featuring Tinashe. We had a lot of fun making this song, and it's going to be a lot of fun going into the nitty-gritty behind how this song was made. The idea behind this new series is to take a deeper dive into the creation process behind the album, show you how I created the sound library for the album, show some BTS of the album making process, some interviews with different artists that I collaborated with on this record, and just a lot of fun insider information that I think will be very exciting for us to go through. So with all that said, let's jump right in. 3482 is my new album, and the theme behind it is what it would be like to collaborate with your younger self. I posed this same idea and theme to all the different vocalists and collaborators that I worked with on this album, and they interpreted it in their own unique way, which I thought was really fun to see happen in real time. Tinashe took her own twist on that theme and put it into her lyrics, and it's really fun to see how everybody relates to that concept of collaboration with your younger self, or a conversation that you would have with your younger self. Sonically, the album was put together by creating a sound library made up of tons of old sounds from old projects back from the late 90s, early 2000s, a bunch of Impulse Tracker sessions specifically. Impulse Tracker was the software that I used to make all of my music with. The sonic quality that comes out of Impulse Tracker is very gritty, lo-fi. It's almost akin to sampling something in an old SP1200 or an older piece of hardware. The output of that piece of hardware has a very specific kind of sound, in the same way that you could resample something off of a cassette tape or off of vinyl. Impulse Tracker is similar in that respect. So I made an entire sound library out of all these old songs, whether I was making loops, one-shots, or any sound that I found interesting. I spent most of my time recording a lot of that stuff straight into Ableton, resampling sounds that I was playing in Impulse Tracker. And I did all of this in the beautiful location of Joshua Tree, California. I rented a house out there by myself to intentionally start working on this new album on my birthday of last year, which ended up working its way into the title of this album, March 4th, 1982, 3482. Yes, I know in the UK and everywhere else, but you put the day before, then the month, then the year. I'm American, so it's 3482. What are you going to do? I've been calling it that since I was a little kid. Anyhow, I think we should get straight into how this track was made, and probably everybody's favorite part, the drums. Okay, we've got the drums. We've got lots of sounds from this sample library that I created, because that was one of the rules that I made, and I made a bunch of rules for this album. I think it's really important that you make parameters when working on a bigger project, because it gives you a playground to experiment with guidelines, with limitations that make things a lot more fun. We'll get into those rules later as well. But one of those rules, a very important rule, was to only use the sounds from the sound library whenever making songs. Let's get into the sounds. We've got our kicks. And there's two different layers. You've got this lower kind of layer and this higher transient kind of layer. My go-to transient shaper, Neutron. It's great. The presets are amazing. I typically just throw this on there, set it and forget it. So that's the kicks. And then we have our snare clap. It's a rim. Some of these breakbeat sounds naturally play a little bit before the actual grid. So I wanted to make sure that my snares line up with the transient of the breakbeat. I chopped up this break so that the kick part of the break is in a separate channel than the snare and ghost notes. And we got just the kick, which also has some ghost notes in there. Got another break beat here. Classic. We've got some rides. Lots of different ones in here. We've got this old one from, I don't know, it sounds like some Motown shit. And here's a more straightforward drum and bass ride pattern. And then we've got some more rides. And everything, of course, is ending up in our beautiful drum bus. So what's going on in the drum bus? First, we have in the chain some effects that only come in at some specific parts in the track. Build-ups. So we've got the dataless delay also going through an echo. The dry wet of these only pop on during these little build-up sections. Moving right along, we've got the Valhalla room. We've got a UAD distressor that's placed after this Valhalla room. This is a new technique that I've been messing around with. I actually learned this from Streaky. He's got a great YouTube channel. You got to check out his videos. Yeah, it's basically just adding a little bit of room to your overall drum bus and kicking it up a notch with the distressor. Here's what it sounds like with it. Without. Definitely more dry sounding. It's especially apparent when you're listening to it on headphones. What we got next? Standard clip. I have this on every drum bus. Now, as you can see, I'm clipping the hell out of this. I personally like having the saturation up a little bit, kind of treating the whole drum bus as if it's a drum loop that you've already processed and you've thrown into a track. You're gaining a lot of loudness without affecting the overall headroom that you have on your master. I love this plugin so much. So what we got going on next? We've got our Pro Q. Now, in general, with EQing, I tend to go the subtractive route as opposed to the additive route. When it comes to additive EQing, this is my go-to. We have Spectre. Shout out to Jason Joshua. I see him use this in all of his videos. I just really like using it and prefer the sound over using an EQ to boost frequencies. We've got some auto filter for build-ups. Listen to everything else in context. So that's the drums. Where there are drums, there is bass. So we've got one of my instruments that I built with my homie, Ben Bromley. Shout out, Ben. Thank you so much for helping me create instruments for this album. And we will get deeper into how those instruments were made in another episode. But for now, we'll just check out these sounds. So this is another bass sound taken straight from Impulse Tracker. Now, it looks like I cheated a little bit. I used Operator. Oh my gosh. But just for a subtone. You know what? Sometimes you gotta bend some rules, break some rules. You gotta understand the rules to break them. And then that makes breaking the rules even that much more fun. All right, we're getting a little darker now. We've got the sub. And then we've got another one of my go-tos is UAD Little Labs Voice of God. It's another one of those set it and forget it plugins. Only thing that I'll change is the amplitude. That always lives on my bass bus. So yeah, that's what's going on with the rhythm section. Next up, we've got Melodies. As you can see on the side here, I have things grouped in a very specific way. And within the instrumental group, I put anything that is creating a melody or chord progressions that aren't your bass line. So what sounds do we have going on? We have this VHS loop. Yeah, this sound is from a VHS recording, the same VHS camera that's recording me right now. I used it when I was out in the desert creating this sound library to record BTS. And every now and then I would grab the camera whenever I found an interesting sound, and I would put the camera close up to the speakers, and then I would resample that through Ableton and add it to the sound library. As you could tell, I'm really into nostalgia, but also putting that nostalgia through a futuristic filter. This is one of our instruments that I made with Ben Bromley. This is a key sound. Here's another one of the instruments. Almost sounds like a Rhodes, but it is just a chip sound that's looped. Here's a guitar sound. Doesn't really sound like a guitar, but trust me, the original sound is a guitar pluck. Then we've got this group that's going through one of my other favorites, Sketch Cassette. Again, adding a whole other level of nostalgic aesthetic to this song. Yeah, this looks like a string group, and there's also a little xylophone here. Got this classic string sound. Mid-rate string, very classic sound. And this xylophone. And here's everything in the melodic bus going at once. So, what do we got going on this bus? Well, we have an audio effect rack with 2 channels. One is going through the Valhalla vintage verb, also through the wrapper, so we can see it down here as opposed to up here. Also a little utility to just do some gain automation and a little filter action. And we've got a spectral blur on the 2nd channel, and this only really comes in twice in the song. It's just giving it a very hazy kind of tone. Here's it without. And then after that, we are going into Portal, which is one of my favorite glitch plugins. Well, we're not actually using any of the real glitch functions in it. Instead, we're using these macros to create a very wild phaser type function. Getting more wet over time, getting all the way up to almost 50%. As we get closer, it starts speeding up. So yeah, this bottom square wave mod is taking it dry and wet back and forth in the phaser. Moving right along to the vocals. I have the pleasure every time I work with Tinashe of collaborating with her super gifted audio engineer, Ike Schultz. He's one of the most talented engineers I've ever worked with. Just seeing him work in person is it's a masterclass in its own. Yeah, so it was really exciting being able to work with him on this song. With that said, I didn't really add much of anything as far as EQing or any of my go-to vocal processing that I would normally do. I think in this, I'm doing some subtractive stuff. I added automated dynamic EQ positions here. to help tame those sections.
Dipping in a parking lot, got a ticket on the window. Fuck a cop, we get freaky on the weekend. On the dice bar, then my life if we in lit.
Otherwise, we have some just very basic subtractive EQing going on again.
I got a ticket on the window. Fuck a cop, we get freaky on the weekend.
Very subtle stuff. Other than subtractive EQing, I have this little compressor trick that I put on pretty much everything.
I just got a vision. Candy girl, not talking new edition. Pull up to the bar, then like, now say what you drinking. Kiss it, sending all my love into the kitchen.
Yeah, it's a very subtle thing. What should we talk about now? Creating space in our vocal tracks. Here's something that I love using. It's called Track Spacer. It is essentially a side chain specifically made for creating space for vocals, or maybe not specifically for vocals, but that's what I found it to be the most handy with. So I have this thrown on the melodic bus.
I just got a vision. Can't buy them a love if we ain't licking. It's a weekend. Do you feel me?
We're really just clearing out that necessary space for the vocals to live, and they're not clashing too much with our melodic instruments. Let's take a look at what this is actually doing. So this is it with the vocal.
Yeah.
Let's just play the vocal with it.
I just want you to know.
As you can see, this vocal already has reverb in it, has a lot of Ike's processing built into the stem. He really knows how to make Tinashe sound amazing already, so I never ask for dry stems from him. We've got some reverse reverb moments to add some tension. Definitely nothing revolutionary. It's just something I like. It adds some action and some movement to the vocals. Again, some nice tension. What do we have now? We've got this vocal sample from Carrie Baxter. A shout out to Carrie Baxter for this original vocal sample. That'll do it for the vocals. We'll get deeper into vocal processing on another episode because, again, Ike Schultz did most of the magic on the vocals for this track and really made my job very easy. Last but not least, we have the effects. I call it effects. This could be a lot of different things. It could be risers like this. Or it could be little ear candy moments. Womp. What else do we got? We got another womp. Some wubs. In context with the track.
I just want you to know.
Just, you know, some interesting little glitchy moments.
I just want you to know.
This one sounds kind of funny when you solo it. Yeah, so not a lot of ear candy on this song, not as much as I typically add. I think just because I may have initially tried to add a lot more in the song on the instrumental version, but once I had the vocals, they were just adding too much. And a lot of times when you have a vocal, adding these additional little glitchy moments in the track can sometimes take away from the magic of a vocal, because a lot of times in an instrumental track, the ear candy is there in place of a vocal, but I do use it every now and then. I added some automation dips and gain so that those little ear candy moments will be more clear. Sometimes I do it on the vocals, sometimes I don't. It depends on what's going on. Yep, I did it. I did it.
I just want you to know.
That's why you're hearing a little dip in her vocal there.
I just want you to know.
Which when everything else is going on, you wouldn't really be able to tell.
I just want you to know.
Just clears up that much more space for that little ear candy moment to pop through. So yeah, that basically wraps it up for the track breakdown for Zoom. I really appreciate all of you watching, and shout out to Tinashe for absolutely killing it on the vocal on this track. I cannot wait to perform this live with you. With that said, Zoom is out now on all platforms. You can also check out my new album 3482, dropping on May 24th. Check out all of my upcoming dates on machinedrum.net. And I'm very excited to do more of these episodes and show you how the sausage is made. I really hate saying that. I'm never going to say that again. Well, take care. Thanks for watching. Peace out.